There is a moment in every true lost-at-sea incident that rarely gets talked about. It doesn't happen during the storm. It doesn't happen during the initial emergency. And it doesn't happen in the first rush of adrenaline after the vessel goes down. It happens later, quietly, gradually. It's the moment survivors begin to understand. They may be out here longer than they expected. In the early phase of an offshore emergency, the human body is highly activated. Adrenaline is elevated. Focus is sharp. Movement is purposeful. Survivors are busy, checking flotation, scanning for vessels, organizing equipment, calling for help. The mind stays occupied. And as long as the brain believes rescue is imminent, psychological stability usually holds. But the open ocean has a way of stretching time. Hours pass. The horizon remains unchanged. No vessels appear. No aircraft cross overhead. And slowly, the nervous system begins to notice something uncomfortable. Nothing is happening. This is the beginning of what many maritime survival experts recognize as the awareness phase. It is not full panic. Not yet. It is something quieter. A subtle shift in internal expectation. At first, survivors may simply become more watchful. They scan the horizon more frequently. They check their watch. They begin estimating how long they've been adrift. This is still a functional mental state. But as time continues to pass without rescue, the brain starts updating its internal model of the situation. And that is where the real psychological pressure begins to build. Because humans are extremely sensitive to uncertainty in open environments, especially environments where the visual field rarely changes. At sea, the horizon can look almost identical hour after hour. There are few visual anchors, few reference points, few signals of progress. For the nervous system, this creates a deeply uncomfortable condition, prolonged ambiguity. In many documented survival accounts, this is the phase where emotional tone inside lifeboats and among open water survivors begins to shift. Conversation becomes quieter. Movements become more deliberate. People begin conserving energy more consciously. And internally, many survivors begin running the same silent calculation. How long could this actually take? This is the moment when offshore survival transitions from a short-term emergency into a long-duration psychological event. Physiologically, the body is still capable. Adrenaline may still be present. But mentally, the situation is becoming heavier. Because the brain is now balancing two competing realities. On one side, rescue is still possible. On the other, time is clearly passing. The survivors who manage this phase best tend to do something very specific. They impose structure. They create small routines. They ration attention as carefully as they ration water. Because without structure, the open ocean has a way of amplifying uncertainty. And uncertainty, over time, is one of the most powerful stress multipliers the human nervous system can experience. This is why experienced offshore crews are trained to maintain calm procedural behavior even after the immediate danger has passed. Because the real survival challenge is often not the first hour. It's the long, quiet stretch that follows. The ocean rarely defeats people in one dramatic moment. More often, it applies steady psychological pressure over time. Hour by hour, wave by wave. Until eventually, survivors are forced to confront the reality that the timeline may be longer than they hoped. And understanding that moment, the moment awareness fully settles in, is one of the keys to understanding how real lost-at-sea survival actually unfolds. In the lifeboat, a shared silence hangs like a heavy mist, thickening the air around the survivors. They huddle together, eyes darting to the horizon, biting their lips in anticipation. Each minute stretches like an elastic band, taut with unvoiced fears and unacknowledged doubts. As the sun sinks lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, their shared anxiety brings them closer, Yet an invisible wall of uncertainty begins to rise, separating hopes from grim realities. The slight rustle of life jackets, the soft splashes of water against the sides of the boat, and the distant calls of seabirds seem to underline the overwhelming stillness that surrounds them. Time feels fickle as it dances between hope and despair, a constant reminder that the ocean is a patient predator. The survivors steal glances at each other, silent calculations swirling beneath the surface of their expressions. One young man, his brow furrowed, clutches the edge of the lifeboat, feeling the cool metal biting into his palms. "How long do you think it's been?" he finally whispers, breaking the heavy silence, as if voicing the question everyone fears to ask. The others exchange uncertain looks, each one grappling with their own internal clock, the horizon a mocking reminder of their stasis. They each sense the subtle shift, the weight of unspent adrenaline still coursing through their veins, yet it feels increasingly overshadowed by a tenacious dread looming just below the surface of their resolve. As the minutes drag on, each survivor finds their breaths drawing deeper yet more measured, an unspoken agreement to preserve energy. The young man's question lingers uncomfortably in the air, its resonance echoing the doubt that creeps into their minds. "We have to stick together," a voice finally breaks through, steady yet strained, its owner a woman with sun-kissed hair framing her determined gaze. She shapes words into a fragile lifeline, hoping to snare the group's wavering spirits. "We've trained for this. We know what to do." Each nod among them carries weight, a flicker of solidarity attempting to push back against the encroaching haze of uncertainty that clings like salt to their skin. The lifeboat rocks gently beneath their weight, the rhythm of the sea creating a fragile heartbeat as they lend each other strength in this ever-thickening twilight. The woman's words hang in the salty air, a tremor of hope sparking light in their shared gloom. "We need to establish a routine," she suggests, her voice steadying as the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows upon their faces. "Let's take turns keeping watch, setting a timer for intervals. That way we stay alert and focused." Each survivor eyes the watch resting on the young man's wrist. It's ticking a metronome to their rising anxiety. One by one, they nod, accepting this newfound structure as a lifeline in an ocean of uncertainty. As each minute passes, they soften their breaths, synchronizing their efforts like a delicate dance against the steel gray of twilight. The ocean swells, almost humming beneath them, whispering reminders of resilience and endurance. Time may stretch before them, but as they adapt to their routines, an ember of resolve stirs. Unbeknownst to them, this simple act of cooperation begins to shift the gravity of their fears, knitting together the fragile threads of their spirits. Their shared resolve solidifies as they exchange glances, a new understanding radiating amongst them. Each survivor acknowledges the necessity of strategy. Yet within that acknowledgement lies a quiet acknowledgement of their vulnerability. As the first watch begins, the young man shifts his position, scanning the horizon with renewed focus, his heart pounding in rhythm with the waves crashing against their lifeboat. The darkness deepens, enveloping them in a vast and daunting void. But surrendering to the depths is not an option. Instead, the survivors find solace within their routines, slowly stitching a fragile sense of hope into the fabric of their reality. The ocean, an expansive enigma, becomes their unyielding companion, urging them to persevere, hour by hour. As time unfolds, the survivors' energy ebbs and flows, but their resolve remains steadfast. They exchange small, reassuring smiles, grounding each other in the shared experience. With the stars beginning to pierce the velvet sky, they lean into their routines, each small task now infused with purpose, a beacon against the relentless uncertainty that surrounds them.